Hi, this is Phil Spencer, and you're listening to the Inner Circle podcast for the fans, by the fans.
Thank you for landing on Planet Xbox. You are now rocking with the Inner Circle, the official podcast of XboxMad.net. And this is your podcast for fans, by fans, so salute to you, the mighty, mighty X units. Today is a special show for us as well as the fans. I'd first like to thank some of the Xbox One fan podcasters that helped us promote this show. So listeners, please sub to Anchorman V, Kid Smooth, Detroit Reaper, Chef Big Willie, Next Gen 720, Gaming Addict, and I am Iron Wolf. And to all the fans who listened, subbed, and supported us this far, thank you. Stay tuned to after the show to see if you're the winner of our D4 credit giveaway to subscribers only. And without further ado, Tick Podcast interviews Mr. Phil Spencer. So Phil, you know, a lot of guys have been really happy that you are now head of the Xbox division, and we feel that Xbox is heading in the right direction. But before we get into what the fans want to know, how did you get into gaming? You know, what is your background, and how difficult has it been since you've become the head of the Xbox division?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. I got into gaming, I think, probably like a lot of people, through actually playing games with my dad. My dad was an engineer, brought a computer home when I was young. We started typing in. They used to have magazines where they actually had the source code for the games in the back. You'd type it in. They were little simple text-based games, and that's what kind of got me on the programming front. I started at Microsoft in 1988 as a programming intern. And working on kind of early multimedia things, and I've always been in the consumer space here. And I joined Xbox at the launch of the original Xbox, which was a ton of fun on the studio side. So that was great. You know, the becoming the head of Xbox is it's an honor, because I know the people who have done this job in the past, and there's some great people, great friends there that I know well. You know, Jay Allard's advice to me was don't screw it up. You know, I met with him right after I took this job, just get some feedback from him, which I laughed at. But you know, it's I just think about all the millions of people out there that buy Xbox, that look at it as something that they spend their hard-earned money on, and I just want to make sure, as a team and as a platform, you know, we're building the right product for gamers.
Yeah, I think the gamers feel that. Resonating with them, especially this gen. Even though it's been a slow start, it's starting to pick up, and we love the direction that it's going. So I'm gonna hop right into the fan questions and some of our questions as well. You know, only because you know, we want to try to get as much as we can on the show. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So far this gen, you guys have added an assortment of new IPs like Quantum Break, Scalebound, Max Cursor Brotherhood, and Arena Blind Forest, as well as reviving some older ones like Killer Instinct and the surprise announcement this year at E3 of Phantom Dust. How do you feel about Xbox's portfolio of games continuing to build first-party studios? And with that said, will we see Rare at next year's E3 with a non-Connect title?
First of all, thanks for the call out. You know, I think investing in new IP early in the generation is important. You know, things like Rise at launch, Crimson Dragon, Loco Cycle, and not everything's going to hit big. I mean, that's just the nature of the games business. But you know, I think it's a mix that gamers are looking for of the franchises they know and love, whether it's Call of Duty, Halo. But also the new stories and new characters. You know, I'm playing a lot of Sunset Overdrive right now, and I'm just really impressed with Insomniac and their ability to create new IP. You know, the bringing back older things that people love. Ken Lobb and I spend a lot of time thinking about some of the older games that we've shipped and were there things about those older games that we think would almost be more important now than they were when they launched? And there were some certain things about Phantom Dust that I thought, hey, Phantom Dust done again and done, I won't say right because I thought it was right before, but kind of remade for today's world could be something special if we do it the right way. You bring up Rare. Rare's got a ton of stuff in their past. And I've said this, and I'm being completely honest. I actually haven't seen the new Rare game yet.
Oh, okay.
They send me some mail ideas and email. I'm going to be out there in early November, and they're gonna kind of show what they've been working on. So I don't have a ton of news on that. I like to let the studios work for quite a while on their ideas before kind of management people come in and start asking questions, because it takes a while for a team to really land on a creative direction. But they have complete freedom to build what they think the next Rare game should be, and I'm excited to see what they're working on.
That sounds awesome. Unify, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do have a specific question there for Phil. Me and millions of Xbox fans around the world would like to know what is going on with MechAssault. Does that IP have potential on the Xbox One?
Yeah, I love MechAssault, and I think so. We're not doing anything with MechAssault right now. Jordan Weissman, who's kind of created most of those great FASA games, is somebody I know well. Yeah, Crimson Skies and Shadowrun, all that stuff. I just wanted to say that because he's a pretty amazing creative guy. And Mech, I think about one of the great things about the Mech franchise is it has this kind of third-person action take on it, which is MechAssault, but it also have this strategic take with Mech Commander in those games. And while we're not doing anything today, I know, like, as I just sit around and talk to the guys here about things that could be cool in the future, it's got an interesting mix of a strategy and an action game in the IP together, and it'd be cool to be able to take advantage of that at some point. It's always about finding the right team and just time in the portfolio to go do something. But Mech is a little bit like the Phantom Dust thing. Mech seems like one of those things that could be rebooted and do tremendously well, and I think it could be across more than just one genre. But like today, it's just an idea. We're not really working on anything hardcore on it yet.
Gotcha.
All right,
Brandon, you have any thoughts?
Yes, my question would be about Rare. Phil, I'm a big fan of Rare, and I just wanted to know if IPs such as like Cameo or Viva Pinata or even Banjo would come back and just address some of the younger audience needs.
That's a great question. And Rare's one of those rare studios out there that can build a franchise that looks really approachable to, as you say, kind of kids and young people. And then when you start playing the game, you realize that there's like real depth to some of the games. I mean, I thought Viva was a perfect example of that, of something that was really cute and colorful and just like you wanted to play in that world. But then when you started figuring out what the mechanic was of the game, you realized there was a ton of depth there. Right. The Rare's success is really important to us, and they've done a great job with being a cornerstone of our early Kinect success with Kinect Sports. But I think it's time for them to kind of spread out and think about more. And I know that's the kind of push I gave them last time I saw them. Let's go make an iconic Rare game that people kind of center on what Rare has always been about. And if again, I haven't seen it yet, but if the pitch kind of holds to that, their history, I think we're likely to see something in that vein. And I'm also just quickly happy you call out Cameo. I thought Cameo was a really nice game at the launch of 360. Yeah. I thought they did a good job on that game. And it's, they're just such a rich studio with such great franchises in their past and hopefully in their future.
Yeah. Some of the fans have been, driving me crazy to mention these games to you that they want to see on the Xbox One in the next gen iteration. So I'm just gonna.
I think I can name them. I know these.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna run off a list for you real quickly, so that way they can stop harassing me for it. So these are some of the games that they want to see: Halo Wars 2, Alan Wake 2, yeah. MechAssault, Conquer 3, Blinks the Time Sweeper, Future Frenzy. A new Future Frenzy would be good because it's a party game. That would be great socially.
Yeah.
Banjo Kazooie, Cameo 2, High Heat Baseball because we don't have a baseball franchise.
I know.
Very good
Yeah,
idea.
Otage. And these two, obviously, even though they're not first party, Knights of the Old Republic, maybe Microsoft funded exclusive, and Shenmue, Microsoft exclusive, funded exclusive, or timed. So those are the games that some of the fans would like to see on the Xbox One.
There are a couple games on that list that we're doing some work on. I'll just say that we're not talk about it.
Okay.
But
right. So now it's just a guessing game.
no, I don't want that. I'm not. I'm just saying that people should know that we listen to the feedback. We have ideas, and there are franchises in our past that we think would be great to come again. So, like, we have the same sentiment here when we're sitting around playing games. And I still have my original Xbox, and I plug it in to play games every so often. That's why we end up with things like Phantom Dust, and so we're right there with people. And I've said this before. I mean, the one thing that I'm probably taking a little different approach on Xbox than some of the previous leaders is I'm really into investing in franchises that we own. It's not so much around just kind of the business side of it, but when I think about the long term of this business, I look at what Nintendo has built over the years, and they have such a great stable of franchises, and they're able to do so much because so many people love things that they're franchises that are uniquely Nintendo's and owned by Nintendo. And I want to get to that same place. So when people ask me about Shenmue, or people ask me about Knights of the Old Republic, I was a huge KOTOR fan, but I just think, it's Star Wars, it's owned by Disney, and I think that I'm probably not a big player in those games. The baseball thing is kind of the same thing. I mean, we've done a baseball game before. Right. It's just really hard as a first party, and I know there are some first parties that do sports games, but because the licensing costs with the leagues and other things, it's tough when you're going to do a single platform. But it bugs me that there's not a great baseball game, it's not that I don't hear it. I definitely hear the feedback, and I want there to be a great baseball game on our platform. So that's something we'll focus on. Don't know that I'd use a first-party studio to go do it, because it's like the time of our best creative people is the most precious thing in our business, and I want them focused on the things that kind of build long-term for us as Xbox owners.
Well, congratulations to you and the Xbox team on launching in new territories recently. In particular, Japan and China. We Japanese RPG lovers really miss those awesome JRPGs that were so abundant early on the Xbox 360. Will we see some Japanese Chinese exclusive games on Xbox One heading west in the future? For example, maybe something like Neverwinter, or maybe even sequels to Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon, because a lot of us are clamoring for them.
So I was over at TGS, and I go almost every year. I love going there. And one of the primary reasons I want to make sure that Xbox is in Japan is so that we maintain good development relationships with the third-party publishers and the studios over there. Because I'm with you. Like, I want great Japanese games to be built for the Japanese audience and those of us that love Japanese games that don't live in Japan. Right. All up, just the amount of console development going on in Japan right now, there's not a ton.
Right.
You've got, obviously, Capcom and big Sega. You've got some of the big publishers, but like we're doing, obviously, Scalebound with Platinum, and Platinum's a great Japanese studio. But I remember, 15 years ago when I'd go to Tokyo and there were a ton of console developers in Japan. There just aren't as many as there used to be. And you talk about JRPGs. I mean, there just aren't as many built as there used to be. I'll tell you this: we're in active discussions with Japanese studios about games. I want to make sure that the Japanese console development community stays strong and grows back to where it was. And if we can help, that's great by opening up a Western audience. You mentioned Neverwinter, which were launched in China. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that does, and great opportunity with Perfect World to think about what that could mean globally. Our first step was just trying to get out in China and see what happens. But so I'm with you on getting Japanese studios signed up. we're a lap. We're not the strongest platform in Japan, but but keeping those relationships with studios and publishers there are really important. And if we can help bring great content, Japanese content, to the planet, that's a good thing.
That's awesome.
Just don't forget Miss Walker is still around. Even though I know their game right now is mobile, but
yeah,
they're still around though, so maybe in the future.
I know. I was on LO and Blue Dragon. I got both. In fact, I still have my my Japanese special edition Blue Dragon 360 with all the little figurines and all that. It was fun working on those games with Sakaguchi-san, and they're big investments. They're not big investments that necessarily directly pay off in how many units of the game you sell, but you think about the mark you make, and working with great Japanese studios, like I said, is something I want to be a part of, because I think it's important to global gaming. I just think Japanese studios have something unique to bring to gamers all over the world, and I want people to see what they create.
Right. Very quickly, around that subject, what is your view on crossplay for PC and Xbox One? Because we've been hearing a lot of chatter about Final Fantasy 13 MMO, and some fans wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, I've said on the record before, I think our future includes people playing across multiple platforms together. I just look at like what Hearthstone is now from Blizzard, a game I play. They take way too much of my money in that game, and no matter any screen I log into, it's my account, it's my game. There's obviously differences with input. Hearthstone's kind of an easier thing to do it with because it's a card game, and it's not very Twitch based, or controller, keyboard doesn't really matter, or touch. But Live is one of the things that we continue to invest in, Xbox Live, and I think the ability for Xbox Live to touch people on multiple screens is important and let them play. We've done things like Skulls of the Shogun that would let you play across multiple screens on your own gameplay session and continue to make progress in the game. And in the future, I think you'll see games that allow people that have different devices in their hands to play against each other. So I think that just makes a ton of sense.
Awesome. Okay, so, Xbox One originally wanted to be an all-digital console, but the announcement of the 24-hour check and not having a trade policy kind of hurt that vision. So things changed. And yet today they stay the same because gamers are buying digitally more than ever. Since digital has become so popular this gen on consoles, fans would like some of the perks that they would get from stores to keep them enticed to buy the games. We also are wondering, why don't we get our games on the East and Central Time at midnight? And is it possible to transfer 360 arcade games over to the Xbox One? Because I got a ton of games on Xbox 360, but I can't play them because I don't have a 360 anymore.
I'm with you on digital. Now, I'm lucky enough I get the games digitally, and the fact that any Xbox One I sit down to, I have access to my full library of games. I just love that. And we got the feedback after the announce and after the E3 of 2013 and implemented the disk-based DRM, which I think in the long run was a good thing, just in terms of giving consumers choice. Right. It does create some interesting kind of complexities now in managing a system that is both digital and physical in terms of DRM, and it means we're going to have work supporting both. But supporting a digital future is definitely something that we're focused on. And you brought up a couple issues and opportunities that I think are big. Like, what does a limited edition, special edition look like digitally? Because we're all used to going into the store and the Master Chief helmet or whatever it is that you're buying. And we're working with the third parties and the first parties to really get what does a digital LE look like. We've recently announced pre-download, pre-buy on the games, which I think is a good feature.
Yeah, really good.
Your question about what's the right time zone for when that can start, that's an issue we're on like real time. And right now we kind of work with the development partners because they kind of own the go to market for their game. For our first party games, we'll try to be set our own policy for that.
Nice.
We won't own that policy for all first and third party. But in terms of longer term, you'll see us continue to invest more and more in our digital policies because, frankly, I think it's consumer friendly. I think once you kind of get all the games on the console digitally, it just makes it easier. And then last on your 360 question, it's a great question, and it's one of those, back compat is always a hot topic at the turn of a generation, and I get why, especially 360. So many people bought so much digital content, and it means a lot of us we're holding on to our 360s. I get the question. I respect the question. There's kind of nothing I can say about it right now, but I'll just say I hear you. I definitely hear you, and continue to try to work to build something that can help people out.
So many Xbox gamers are afraid of that drought that 360 had. First party AAA exclusives from like 2010 to 2013. Along with knowing that AAA development has become more expensive today than in the past, and the abundance of indie games releasing this gen, fans want to know, will we see AAA first party games and new IPs all the way up to the end of this new generation? And what are your thoughts on the parity clause? Because being that you made so many changes with the Xbox One, is the parity clause in your plans for a change as well? Because we missed out on some indies with that in there.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, so let me do the parity clause thing first, just because it's a question. I actually don't get the question as much anymore, and I'm again, I'll be honest. The thing I worry about is because I look at all the people who buy an Xbox and they invest their time and their money in Xbox One, and as millions of people obviously own Xbox Ones, and I want them to feel like they're first class, because they are. And when a third-party game comes out, it comes out on all platforms at the same time. And when indie games come out, I want them to come out, and I want Xbox to feel like it's a first-class citizen when an indie game launches. Right. So for me, the parity thing is, if you own an Xbox One, I want to work for you to make sure that when great content launches, if it's coming to Xbox and another platform, that you kind of get it at the same time everybody else does. That said, I have a lot of friends that run small indie studios, and I get the timelines around when they just can't get both games done at the same time, or all 3 games, 4 games, depending on how many platforms they're supporting. Right. So I always just say, let's have a conversation. And it's worked. Like today, I think we've done a good job working with the indies on when they've had strict parity concerns, if it's just a dev issue for them. But I don't want somebody to come in and just think that I'm going to go do a special game on one platform and then I'll get to Xbox whenever I get to it, because I don't think that's right. I think as Xbox One customers, we want good games when they come out on both platforms. But I also get that, hey, for some guys, they can't afford the time to get both done. So we've just entered into conversations with people as they're launching, and I feel pretty good about the plan. On new IP, in the drought, boy, I don't think we got a drought this holiday. I'm kind of blown away.
No, it's been a great one. Yeah.
Xbox One is the best place to be.
And it's crazy when I try to think about playing all the games this holiday. I was playing Shadow of Mordor last night, which obviously is cross-platform, but I think it's a fantastic game. Sunset's coming out, Horizon 2. I don't need to go. I mean, you guys know the lineup. And then next holiday, I'm looking at that already, and it's not just about a holiday. I just kind of look at the next year, and the flow of games coming is crazy again. And then I know we've got things signed and underway that are the following year already. And, because these are big games, are 2 or 3 years in advance that we're starting on these things. And, schedules can move. You kind of need to give teams the time to get the game right. I know some guy was on me on Twitter about why Sunset didn't ship earlier. And I'll say, hey, the game's got to be good first, and then we'll figure out where the date is. And you can't just push games to get done early. But I don't see a drought unless things just start slipping like crazy. I think exclusive content, first-party content's critical to our long-term success. That's where I was born here. That's where I came from, and that's going to be something I'm going to continue to push. as head of Xbox.
Oh man, that sounds. I'm sure that's reassuring to a lot of people. A lot of people.
A lot of people wanted to hear
They
that.
definitely did. So, Phil, all fans are looking forward to Crackdown being the first game to fully implement cloud computing physics on a grand scale. And DX12, of course, when the API fully hits the Xbox One. But besides Crackdown, are there any other games currently being built around fully implementing cloud compute? And what are your thoughts on how DX12 could affect the Xbox One?
Yeah, good set of technical questions. On cloud, and I don't know, people always make fun of me when I say cloud. I got to come up with another word. But, there's a certain, just like dedicated servers and people playing multiplayer. And I know people don't really think about that as cloud because everybody does it. And I get that. But I think I looked at a stat the other day, and I bet it's going to be 35 to 40% of the games that are live this holiday are going to be using the cloud technology that we put out in some way, which is pretty cool. Now you look at something like Crackdown, you're picking on something that is kind of trying to jump a leap ahead and do some things that people haven't done before. Titanfall did some of this with the AI stuff that they did, and Respawn I thought did a great video on that stuff. I'm sure you guys have linked to that before, but if you haven't, you should. Respawn talking about how they use the cloud. Halo 5 is going to be something that that's obviously taking use of technology. But in any kind of these technologies, it's you kind of do a little, then on the technology platform side, then you get some studios to try to use the tech. They tell you what's working and what's not working. The platform makes more progress, and you kind of iterate over time. So it's not like you reach one point where it's just this big thing from upon high that everybody goes off and uses. That's just not the way platforms are built. Platforms are kind of, most platforms are bootstrapped through use, and that's what we're finding now. And definitely from both third party and first party, we're seeing more and more people look at the technology that we're putting out there and use it. And maybe we should think about how to talk about it with consumers better. On the DX12 question, I got asked early on by people, is DX12 going to dramatically change the graphic capability of Xbox One? And I said it wouldn't. I thought, and I'm not trying to kind of rain on anybody's parade, I just, the CPU, GPU memory that's in an Xbox One doesn't change when you go to DX12. DX12 makes it easier to do some of the things that Xbox One's good at, which will be nice, and you'll see an improvement in games through the use of DX12. But people ask me, is it going to be dramatic? And I think I answered no at the time, and I'd say the same thing. But it will ease development, and especially for guys that are doing games on both PC and on Xbox, because as those two APIs, if they're the same, then it's just obviously less work but for studios to manage the differences between platforms for teams that are doing work on both PC and Xbox One. So I think there's easier use of the hardware that's in Xbox One or on a PC, and there's just an easier common API for guys that are on both platforms, which are good things.
Will there be features that we might not have on the Xbox that will be in DX12 that will be on there maybe later on once it's implemented?
I don't know if I'd go so far as to say features. I think what you'll see, and we saw this on 360 as well, I went back and I was playing Perfect Dark Zero the other day just to look at what a launch 360 game looked like, and there's no disrespect to my friends at Rare, but let's say it wasn't the prettiest game in the 360 generation. Right. And then I went and I looked at Halo 4, obviously a game towards the end of the generation, and there's such a dramatic leap that tech guys are able to make through the lifespan of a console. You look at those two games, and it's hard to even say that they were shipping on the same platform, and yet the hardware underneath didn't change at all. Right. And I think we're going to see the same thing in this generation, whether it's PS4, whether it's Wii U, whether it's Xbox One. And DX12 will be one of those things that developers will get better at using, and you'll see just a continued dramatic increase in the fidelity and the kind of visual aspects of the games that are out there, and on top of things like physics and other things that the studios kind of continue to push the envelope on.
So guys, there's your answer. Hopefully you guys can stop fighting over DX12 and realize there will be benefits to Xbox One, but obviously the massive benefits will always go to PC because that's what it's built for. So, we're coming to the end of our show. Obviously, I want to thank you for coming on. But just for a final question.
Yeah.
The great thing we love about what you've done with Xbox One was as soon as you were made the box father, and that's my term, by the way, you made an immediate impact on everything Xbox, from live to changing the direction that Xbox One was originally heading. What is your vision for Xbox One this generation, and where do you see the console, or shall I say, where do you see console gaming heading in the future?
Wow, that's a big one. That's well, first, thanks for the comments. I try to say it is definitely a team effort here at Xbox, and I get a lot of undue credit for things like the monthly updates and policy decisions and great games that come out. I'm as much a passenger as the gamers are out there on the stuff that happens. The team is big, and the team gets a ton of work. I'm glad to see some of the things that we're doing now that people are reacting positively to, which thanks for that, and it's great. But it is a full team effort here.
Right.
In terms of where this generation's going, I see a long runway for the console that we put out there. But I also see, and you talked about it before, people playing games in many different places, whether it's playing PC to console, people playing games on their phones, people playing games on their laptops. We put a lot of time and effort into live, and I think about Xbox One as the way people play great games on their television. And I want to make sure that television experience is great. But we know people also play games in many different places. But today, when you're playing games on all these different devices, it feels very disconnected. It doesn't really know who I am. It doesn't know who my friends are. It doesn't know what podcasts I should be listening to.
Right.
I'm kind of a different person on every one of the devices, with a different set of games and achievements and friends and leaderboards and other things. And I love the fact that we have so many people playing games today, from little game, I call it little, but I'll call more simple games like Candy Crush, all the way through the most hardcore games out there. I think it's a good time to be in the games industry, and I want us to, as a games industry, to embrace that breadth. We announced the Minecraft thing, and I saw some people like, what does Minecraft mean to Xbox and Xbox Live? And obviously the deal hasn't closed yet, but I think about what a great community, young and old, male and female, of gamers that are investing so much time and so much passion in a game like Minecraft. And I think about that and making that part of our overall ecosystem and what we're trying to do, making that part of what we're doing with live and other things. And I think it just creates more opportunity for us as gamers, more opportunity for the industry. As the industry's doing well, more great games are going to get built, and then I get more games to go play. So I think that's a great thing. So in the future, I hope it's less gaming by device and more a breadth where people are playing and they're connected to their friends regardless of what device they're on.
Right. It's funny that you say ecosystem, because they just released the Windows 10. I believe it is the beta thing, where you could use it on a virtual machine, and then we have talk about being able to have Xbox Live and Windows on Xbox One and your Windows Phone and the PC and things like that. So having an ecosystem like that, being able, I guess, to maybe purchase or play games across those three platforms would be very interesting, and I think could be a game changer for the Xbox platform.
I agree with you, and I thought the Windows 10 announced was good. I've said, and we haven't talked about much of it yet, I said gaming on PC is incredibly important to me, and I think incredibly important to this company. The announce of Windows 10, people should go get the tech preview, sign up for it. We took gaming very seriously on Windows a while ago. I'll say we during the Xbox, we were kind of distributed in what we were thinking about as we were launching Xbox. I'm really committed to us getting back to supporting both Xbox as much as we ever have, and also PC, because I know that my friends and the customers out there that are great gamers on Xbox are also, a lot of them are great gamers on PC, and I want to make sure that we're able to offer them the best experience across all the platforms.
Awesome. Bmuny, you have any words you'd like to say?
Yes. First, I just want to say thanks, Phil, for joining our podcast. It's truly an honor to have you on, man. You mentioned, Windows 10 and how that kind of unifies the ecosystem. I just have a question in regards to games like The Division, where you can actually use a tablet to interact with the game. Do you think Windows 10 will actually improve things like that?
I think it's a great point. I thought The Division looked great. Last year's Gamescom was when I first saw it, and then now in my new role, I get to see the third-party stuff a little more than I did as the first-party guy. And I think you're spot on that you're starting to see. And Division's a great example. It's good that you brought it up. A great example of a game that is it a console game? Is it a PC game? I think in the end, Ubisoft would just want you to say yes. And my goal is, as people are trying to build more experiences like that, or like I said, things that exist kind of as one game across multiple platforms, that us as Microsoft, both Windows and Xbox Live, try to make development of those things easier. Because when development actually gets easier, usually the rate of creativity and innovation on top goes up because people are not fighting the technology to just get it working and spending more cycles thinking about what could be, which I think is great. And on the thanking me for being on the show, I just thank you guys for continuing to rally the community, because it's I think that the community, the Xbox community, is strong. I really like the way we show up as fans. We try to stay out of the kind of console wars and really just think about how can we get more people playing great games, and that means getting games that are created and telling people what we think. When we like things, we tell them. When we don't like things, we tell them. But all in the positive, and you guys do a great job at that.
Thank you so much. Unified, do you have any final words for Phil?
Yeah, I just have one last question, Phil, and also thank you for coming on the show, man. We really stoked and appreciate that. The Microsoft UI or the Xbox One UI, any chance we'll see the customization for the backgrounds and the profile pics coming soon, fairly soon?
You will see it. I'll announce it here. I was told themes and background pics are something that we are working on, and screenshots. I know people beat me up on screenshots. Things that we're working on. The team's done a great job with the monthly updates. Some of the things, it's just a prioritization or a time of development, but I know people like to customize the look of their dash, and I think both themes, backgrounds, and screenshots are things that I know people want, so we're going to deliver them. I can't give you a win yet, but people should know that those are in development.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
That is
That's
great.
Awesome.
That's great, man.
And I want to thank you, Phil, so much for coming on the show, stopping by our little podcast. We are really happy that you stopped by, and I'm glad that we are able to put out content that you can listen to and appreciate, because we really appreciate you and the job you've done for Xbox.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
No problem. I hope that our interview with Phil was as great listening to as it was for us to interview him. He really answered a lot of questions for us and the fans, as well as gave hints at future games. If you missed anything, have a second listen. And now for our D4 subscriber raffle credit announcement. And the winner is XXStew156. Please contact me via Xbox Live to receive your code. You have 48 hours before losing out to another sub. And that's it for our show this week. Stay tuned as we release new episodes every other Friday night or Saturday morning with the latest fan topics, shoutouts, Xbox fan guests, rumors, and opinions. And of course, check me out weekly for Straight Pod Shots, where I do a quick show on what the buzz is in the game industry, along with Tick Reviews hosted by Scotty Jim and Doc. Thank you for listening and for your support. Please comment and subscribe. For the fans, by the fans, we're off this planet. Peace.
For the fans, by the fans.